Okay, let's try and unpack this. There's this really confusing idea floating around. The claim that, avoiding sunlight is somehow as bad, maybe even worse than smoking cigarettes. It's definitely created a lot of anxiety for people just trying to figure out how to stay healthy. So our mission for this deep dive is simple. Find where this claim actually came from, look at its limitations, and give you a clear evidence-based consensus you can actually use.
Yeah, it's a really sensational claim, and we should tackle that head on. Let's just state the bottom line first. The broad scientific consensus. It says that claim is false. Plain and simple. It's a major distortion of the evidence. But it's interesting how it took hold.
Right. So where did it start? This specific, headline-grabbing idea.
It all traces back to one single study, an observational study. It's called the Melanoma in Southern Sweden Cohort, or MISSES study. And importantly, it only looked at about 29,500 Swedish women recruited, get this, between 1990 and 1992. So quite a while ago.
Swedish women. Okay, so already pretty specific.
Very specific. And you can't really generalize from that. I mean, Sweden's way up north, right? High latitude. They get very little UV light for like half the year. And it was just this one group of women. But the biggest issue, the fatal flaw, wasn't really the location. It was the methodology. It's something we call the healthy user bias.
Healthy user bias. Okay, explain that. Why is that the fatal flaw here? Couldn't they just, adjust the statistics?
Well, that's the problem. They couldn't adjust for what they didn't measure. They looked at age, sure, and smoking status, but the study crucially did not gather data on or control for really important things. Things like diet quality, how much people exercise, whether they had obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes, the major drivers of health and longevity.
I see. So the sunshine itself wasn't necessarily making people live longer. It might have just been tagging along with other healthy habits.
Exactly. That's highly plausible. Active sun exposure in this study probably meant people who were, say, exercising outdoors, or maybe people who had enough money to take sunny vacations in the winter. So the sun exposure was likely just a marker, a proxy for an overall healthier, more active lifestyle. The study basically gave the sun credit for benefits that likely came from, exercise and maybe better socioeconomic status.
And that comparison that got all the attention, the one saying non-smokers who avoided the sun lived about as long as smokers who got the most sun.
Yeah, that was based on a pretty shaky statistical finding. The study's actual estimate for life reduction from sun avoidance was somewhere between 0.6 and 2.1 years. It's a weak signal, statistically speaking.
Okay, 0.6 to 2.1 years, maybe. How does that even begin to compare to the known risk of smoking?
Well, it doesn't. It really doesn't. The risks are just completely different leagues. We have decades, mountains of solid research showing smoking gives you something like a 2.5 to 3 times higher risk of dying from any cause, and it leads to a proven reduction in life expectancy of 10 years, often more. Smoking is causal. It's certain.
10 years plus. Okay, that puts the 0.6 to 2.1 years into perspective.
Absolutely. And we also can't forget the other side of the sun coin. The World Health Organization, the WHO, classifies UV radiation from the sun as a group 1 carcinogen. That's the highest level of certainty. It's in the same category as things we know cause cancer, like tobacco smoke and asbestos. You have to respect that risk.
So putting it all together, what's the takeaway for you listening to this? It sounds like extremism either way is bad.
Exactly. Balance is key. Getting absolutely zero sun isn't good, mostly because of vitamin D. We need that. But too much sun, overexposure, that's clearly dangerous because of the cancer risk.
So how do you find that balance?
The standard public health advice is pretty sensible. Use the UV index. It changes based on location, time of day, time of year. The goal isn't total avoidance. It's smart management.
Okay, so if the UV index is 3 or higher,
then you need protection. Seek shade, wear protective clothes, hats, sunglasses, use a good broad-spectrum sunscreen, SPF 30 or higher. But if the UV index is low, below 3, like early mornings, late afternoons, or during winter months in many places, then short bits of incidental sun exposure are generally fine. Often that's enough for your body to make vitamin D.
Right. Manage the risk.
Now, here's a little twist, though, related to vitamin D. We know it's important, but interestingly, many large clinical trials giving people vitamin D supplements haven't really shown strong benefits for preventing things like heart disease.
Huh. So taking a pill isn't the same as getting sun.
It seems maybe not entirely. And this leads to a really interesting kind of emerging idea. There's research suggesting sunlight might have benefits that have nothing to do with vitamin D. Specifically, that UVA rays, a type of UV light, can trigger the release of nitric oxide from stores in your skin into your bloodstream.
Nitric oxide, isn't that involved in blood pressure?
Exactly. It helps relax and widen blood vessels. So the theory is this release might help lower blood pressure, which could be good for cardiovascular health. Now, this absolutely does not cancel out the skin cancer risk, let's be clear, but it suggests there might be other complex cardiovascular things happening with sun exposure that one Swedish study definitely didn't capture.
So maybe the sun story is more complicated than just vitamin D versus cancer risk.
Yeah.
Something interesting for you to think about, perhaps, as you figure out your own balance with the sun today.